Hi, this is Estelle Erasmus, your host for Freelance Writing Direct. In this short, soundbite-filled podcast, I'll cover everything the freelance and creative writer and author needs to do to move forward with their writing, their creativity, and their career. Through conversations with guests, we'll cover tips, tricks, and actionable strategies. So join me every week and grow your business and build your craft with Freelance Writing Direct. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes and Spotify. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Freelance Writing Direct. I'm your host, Estelle Erasmus, and I'm so happy to have with us today Laura Burak. And she's my guest in this episode titled Writing About Food with Nutritionist Laura Burak. I want to give you a little bit about Laura. She's a nationally recognized registered dietitian of over 20 years, a media spokesperson, published author, and freelance writer and recipe developer. Laura founded Get Naked Nutrition with a mission to teach you how to ditch cereal dieting and strip down to the simplicity of food and nutrition, while also finding joy and pleasure from it, including lots of fun snacks and food finds. Although the majority of her time has been spent working in hospitals and in private practice settings, Laura has been an adjunct professor at NYU, frequently contributes to media outlets, and is the founder of the online community and course Get Naked Prep School. Her health and recipe book, entitled Slim Down with Smoothies, is available now, and Laura sits on the medical expert board for Eat This, Not That, and is an ambassador for the Nutritious Life Studio. Most significantly, Laura is a mom to 2 kids who love to challenge her encouragement of green foods, and she lives in the Long Island suburbs outside the city. And she keeps it real when it comes to our busy and crazy lives, and she strives to create a positive, comfortable environment to discuss what can sometimes feel like a daunting and sensitive topic or topics. And welcome, Laura, to the program.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, we became friends on Instagram when I was so impressed with your posts about food and dieting and demystifying it for so many people and talking about things that people should do and things that people were doing. And it seems like people make food so complicated, and you really do break it down. And that's one of the reasons we became friends on Instagram. And I reached out to you when I started doing this podcast, because I thought, there are so many of my listeners and now viewers that want to write about food, and you write about food, and you're also a media expert. So can you talk to me, like, what made you decide to write your book, Slim Down with Smoothies? What made you think that there was a need for a book about smoothies?
Well, first of all, I've been in this field for over 20 years when things were very different. Most things were print only. So as a dietitian, we wear a lot of hats. And one of them is really just our job is to get the information out that is truthful and simplified. And, there's just so many different outlets that I've written for and so many jobs I've had. Us dietitians like to talk about before the social media world happened, we would be like hitting the pavement. We'd have 3 jobs at a time. We'd be running around the city. I was writing for the James Beard Foundation. The writing just kind of came naturally to me my whole life. And I have to say, it's probably my favorite thing that I do. And it's therapeutic as well. It comes out in my writing, as you've seen. And even I could be talking about how to make enchiladas, but I have to write about it instead of just put a recipe in. It's just part of who I am. So the book wasn't something I came up with. The company approached me. This was a publisher that recruits dietitians, for example, experts in the field, to write scientifically verified books and not just kind of say whatever you want. So when I was approached about it, I thought this is definitely in my wheelhouse. And how many smoothies have I made in my life? And honestly, Estelle, like within like 2 days, I had a notepad and I came up with 100 different smoothies in my head because that's what I do. That's what I'm good at. I tell people I'm not good at that many other things, and I'm really good at food. If you're like, what should I eat? I could tell you a million things. So it's kind of like that with smoothies. I've made so many in my life. I just came up with 100 smoothies because that's how many are in this book. This is the book. And I had 3 months to write it. And if you've ever written a book, there's a schedule and there's deadlines. And so I really, yeah, so I became very familiar with the writing process and the the editorial staff and everything that goes into it. And it was just really fun for me. And I only do things that feel really authentic to me. So I've been approached for other things and, it was always I'm sorry, that's not something that I would do. That's not something that feels good to me, but this felt really good to me and really fun. And it's actually every smoothie or almost every smoothie is named after a person, place, or thing in my life at the time. So I wrote it. It was during the COVID time when we were home a lot, and then it came out that summer. And so I think that's why people loved it so much, because they were home and they wanted to eat healthy after being home for so long and started making smoothies. And that's kind of how it happened, really. It wasn't my idea, but I did take a lot of the things that they pitched to me. I said, we need to change this wording, and I don't agree with this because books are made to sell, right? And, even the slim down part, I'm still like, don't love it. It had a different title to begin with. I made them add and good health. So it says for weight loss and good health. So as a dietitian, we deal with so much diet culture and weight stigma that, you'll see so many books that it's all about weight loss and such a giant gazillion dollar industry that it was so important for me to say, they wouldn't take that part out, but I was very adamant about them adding for good health and changing a lot of the wording that was initially in the book to be more of a, how do I just become a healthier, happier person type of thing, because that's really my mission.
So with that mission, and the company picked a really good topic because, like you said, people were home and there was really something that they could do for their health that was easy, that everyone had a blender or you could just order it. There are lots of current ideas about food out there. And I think that with Get Naked Nutrition, you dispel a lot of the myths that are out there. Can you say some of the things that are just kind of crazy that everyone sort of believes that is something that you talk about very openly and honestly in an organic way?
Yeah. So one of the biggest topics, obviously, in health is weight loss, people putting the focus on weight loss. But what I teach people to do is kind of like the reverse. Starting to change all of your habits will naturally lead to weight loss if that is something that you need in your life to be a healthier person. Not everybody needs that, of course, but that's always the focus that clients initially call me with. And they start to see that it's really a byproduct of starting to change your health. And there's so many things that you have to slowly focus on that come together because they're all interrelated, that then make you feel a certain way, decrease your lab values, for example, your cholesterol, your blood pressure. Weight is one of them. It's something that when you're starting to change your habits for the better, you may lose weight. So that's one of the, probably the biggest category. And then the other thing that I focus on a lot is how to eat more from home in the simplest way possible, because people think that they have to cook or they have to prep a lot. And I could not disagree more. It's really about learning how to throw together quick, simple meals that don't take a lot of time just by having a certain amount of products in your house, like a handful, 10 to 15 food staples, I call them, is all you need to make endless amounts of meals and snacks. So those are probably the two things I hear the most is like, I can't cook. I don't want to cook. I don't want to prep. I can't, I won't, and I just want to lose weight. But as you hear him saying, it's like, let's approach this differently and simplify it so that you start to see like, oh, this isn't nearly as complicated as I thought it was. And all these things I'm starting to do for my health, including eating from home more and just learning how to make your own meals easily, will then lead to weight loss and all of these other health improvements.
And so when you write about these tricks or hacks or things like that, like I remember you said something about tuna, and I'd always tried the water pack tuna and I was like, ugh, and I just didn't like it. And then you just said something that like changed my life. You said, try it in oil. It's a little bit of oil, it's olive oil, it's not bad for you. And oh my God, what a game changer. I started eating the Centro tuna in oil, and I mixed it with a little bit of mayo and a little bit of mustard, and my family went crazy over it too. So, I mean, there's still people that would say don't eat tuna in any way, shape, or form, but I feel that of the options, it's the most delicious and the healthiest because it's olive oil. And I can't believe that I didn't think of that myself, but I relied on you, and you did it through Instagram, but you also do it through your writing when you write for the different sites that you write for. Can you talk a little bit about that and like what you think is important, or do they assign you, or do you just come up with ideas? Are you you are an idea factory. How does that work?
I am. So I have written articles myself for the media, but for the most part, I'm the expert that they want to quote. And I give them a lot of credit for that. Like, eat this, not that, even though, again, I don't agree with the title of a lot of the articles, for example. And I always say that I did not pick this article name. I'm just quoted in it because it's like how to lose weight by doing, and, they say, can you give us, do you have time to answer these questions? We're doing an article on X, Y, and Z. And that's usually how it happens. And I've been quoted in the media so many times that, that's how over time, people need to know it takes time. You're not just like, oh, you're suddenly, in all of the outlets. I've been doing this again 20 years. So just with experience and getting my name out there, then they've found me for the most part now. But there's things like Harrow, as you know, help a reporter out, where you can pitch to them. So I've done that in the past and have pitched so that I can then started to build my resume with writing. But it's really about getting into more of a relationship with a reporter, so they know when you write to them, you're writing right back. It's not days later, everything's on a deadline, and there are things you just start to learn. And if I'm interested in something, I'm like, I got it, I'm on it. Like, that's all I write back. They like quick, easy things, right? It's like, you don't need to write a novel. Got it, I'm on it. I'll have it back to you by that date. And it's kind of like short and sweet, the little sound bites, like what are they going to include in the article? You don't have to write 100 different sentences. It's just quick, easy tips that, like you just said, that people really resonate with. And they're like, why didn't I think of that? But that's my job. And that's why it's so cool to have these ways to disseminate more truthful nutrition education and food education in general, just, ways to incorporate more nutritious foods into your diet and delicious foods, because I'm a foodie at heart. That's how I started in this field. And that's why I love food writing, because what does everybody have in common? Everybody needs to eat, right? We need to eat multiple times a day. You can't say, oh, okay, I'm going to eat again on Monday. We all need to eat. We all need to eat several times a day. And there's so much misinformation and confusion around food that's why this is so necessary, and why I love my job so much, is because of even the little tiny thing you said, that was a life-changing tip of like, this just tastes better and it's really healthier because you're getting those healthy omega-3 heart protective fats in the tuna, for example. And, we were brought up on like the Bumblebee white canned tuna and water. I was, at least. And, part of what I love is just trying new foods and being able to tell people about it. So it's not just for myself, it's for my clients, it's for the people that I write for, and when you write something, you can affect a lot of lives and in a positive way. And that's why it's so cool to now have social media also, because even more information can get out there. And that's why it's so important to have medical professionals like dietitians. That's what I
Yes.
do, for example, but we're experts in influence.
I had an episode with a media expert, a therapist, Cheryl Ziegler, and she talked about how to interview a media expert to get the soundbite. It would be interesting to hear from your point of view what you value in somebody who's writing about food who interviews you, how they pose the questions or what they do with the material you give them. So what works for you?
Well, I think on my end too, it's kind of like short and simple wins as well. We're so busy. We get so many emails every day, no matter who you are. And if it's like straight and to the point, like, what do you need to know? When do you need to know it? And how can I be short and sweet and to the point? And the reason that I know that I'm also good at writing is because most of what I write gets published. So that's really cool to me also. It's not like I'm writing all this stuff and they put like one little tiny thing in. Most of the time I see a lot of what I took the time to write actually show up in the article.
You have a very distinct voice, and I think that comes through in your writing as it does in your social media platform. And so I find that a lot of times I've coached a lot of writers, and some of them are in a more academic mind state, even if they're dietitians or nutritionists, and so they write in a more like study-centric way in the language that's used on PubMed, which doesn't translate to the average reader. So you don't do that. Somehow you skip that step, which is wonderful because you don't have to be trained out of it. And obviously your work is being published. So a lot of times editors are that in-between person to take a very academic sounding piece, which is kind of like from up here, talking to the populace and using big words that aren't necessarily telegraphing what they need to tell. So you've avoided that step. Is there some misconception right now out there in the world about food that you would love to address?
Oh, there's a lot of things, but I think living in this day and age, it is difficult to maintain a healthy lifestyle. It really is, because you could be trying to have a healthy day and then someone's like, here's, a tray of donuts at work. I mean, they're literally presented in our face every single day and it's all around us. We're surrounded by junky convenience foods. We're surrounded by a sedentary lifestyle. Just so many people working from home now, not even walking around, walking to work, getting the closest parking spot to the store. So our lifestyle is extremely toxic, I believe, right now. The stress and anxiety in the world, coupled with just much higher sugar processed food and a very sedentary lifestyle. And so all of these things together are making it harder. And what I've been telling my clients every day is that, like, every single one of us needs to make an effort. Doesn't matter who you are, you have to try and think of the little tiny things that can improve your life. Black and white, this can't be one way or the other. But if we don't take control and make an effort every day, then we're going to, they're going to get us. The world is going to get us. So it is hard, but we can change our lives by just taking little tiny steps forward, because those are still steps forward. We think everything has to be major. And why wouldn't we? We have an Amazon package delivered to our doorstep that we just ordered 2 hours later. So the mentality is like quick, 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 and you don't have to do the work to get there. But I always find it to be somewhere in the middle. Like, how do we move towards the middle? How do we kind of have it all? How do we enjoy our life and have fun and eat delicious food, but also balance it out by living a certain lifestyle most of the time?
And you talked about like taking small steps. I mean, you at some point took a huge step and you became an Instagram influencer with quite a big following.
the great thing about it is it's all real people. I mean, you see people with like 200,000 followers, and back in the day, you could just you could buy them, or I don't know how people did it, but I do interact with my audience a lot. And it was totally random. I didn't say one day, oh, I'm going to become an influencer on Instagram. And that's not how I really feel like I am. It's more like I do it for fun, and I do it to help people. And I went through a really tough time in my life this year. I lost my dad a few months ago. So like, it's pretty incredible how, people you don't even know, like I didn't know you before, that we met online, and these can become real people in your life and really support you. And some of my biggest supporters I've never met in my real life.
Wow.
So I just think it's so nice. And I'm one of those people that really appreciates, for the most part, something like Instagram now, because it helps me help you on a much bigger scale. When before, like I said, it would be like writing, publication that was just published and you'd have to read it, or like going in person to teach a class of 20 or 30 people. Now we have this platform, and I'm trying to use it for as much good as possible. I'm a mom too. So it's like, I don't have time to do like all of the things, like the TikTok and all that. Like I don't even let my daughter
I started
have TikTok anymore
because it's like a book.
I took it off her phone. I'm like, nope, no more.
I know.
feel like a lot of toxic things on there, and there's so much there's so many toxic things on all of the social media platforms. And that's why I think it's so nice that you said that about me. And like, it's the most important thing to me is being authentic and being who I am. And I'll tell you, Estelle, I did not love all the science courses in school. Organic chemistry was like, my nemesis. So I'm not going to be, if you're looking for a dietitian that's telling you all about the most recent studies and what they said, that's not me. I'll touch on that a little bit, but that's not what I find super fun and interesting about what I do. It's more like, how can I actually help you in your real life? Because you're a real person.
I like that. What if somebody wants to start writing about food, what are some instant tips you would give them about what they should do or research or something?
Well, I think everyone has access now to creating a social media account like Instagram. And that's really one of the ways I started. It's yours. You can do whatever you want with it. So start writing on there. Or I have a Facebook page too, that you are allowed a lot more words on Facebook than you are on Instagram. A lot of times I kind of have to like say continue in the caption on Instagram. You can also start your own blog. I have a blog too, which I really need to update, but you can do that and write about whatever you want. And these are ways that, people have found me, I think, to ask me to contribute to their articles. So you can really start like kind of in your own world. And then, like I said, you can pitch to media outlets. You can join Help a Reporter Out. You got to put in a little bit of work, and you have to do it over time so that you can build your resume up.
Yeah. And sometimes people who wrote about other subjects that might have been widely published decide that they want to write about food. So they're they're already maybe a little ensconced in the business, but they're kind of looking out, are there different publications that you read that besides the one that you're expert for?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so many out there now that are always talking about, I think most, even like, it could be People Magazine, it could be any newspaper. There's always articles about food and the new trends. So I like to always kind of think what's trending, like what are people asking me about? And that's what they want to know about right now. And like every day it changes, but it really depends. So it's like, here's what I'm doing, because this goes along with like the season that I'm in or the mood I'm in. And that's probably going to resonate with a lot of people, because that's what your audience is. I think they're similar to you and they relate to you. And those are the people following you because they're like, oh yeah, like that happened to me today, or that's how I feel today. And I feel that, like I feel people's energy. I'm like a bit of a therapist too. That's what I do also. I'm a food therapist. So, but I love food the most and I love recipe creating. And that's kind of my next thing is, and I have like a lot of digital recipe books as well that are really fun to create on Canva. So I do that as well. But I think that's kind of the next step is to do some virtual cooking classes and things like that. And like kind of feel like I'm being drawn in that direction because that's what people are also asking for.
That's so interesting. And are there any podcasts that you yourself listen to in the food nutrition realm?
I listen to a lot of podcasts. It really depends on the day. Not all of them are wellness, but I have listened to like the Huberman Lab and I've listened to the Dax Shepard one. Michael Pollan, I've listened to him on a podcast many times. There's a huge trend now in the psilocybin, like all the mushrooms and how they're being used for anti-anxiety. They're doing these legal retreats where they'll take you and like doctors and therapists are there and 1 or 2 sessions can like rid you of your anxiety. Like I'm really interested in how plants, because that's what they are.
Yeah.
A lot of plant podcasts that tell you like all of these amazing properties of certain plants, like mushrooms. They think that they're like this is what's going to save the world.
So you had your smoothie book, you write books on Canva, different recipe stuff, probably for groups that you host and things like that. What is next for you?
I would love to write another book more on my terms. So another thing about the book is like, I wanted to be a published author. So, I kind of took a deal that was like, I was like, all right, I got to do something to get me started and to learn how to write a book.
Right.
And I think that's really important too, because now I know how. So the next time I do it, I'll have a lot of experience. So I'd love to do that. I'm not sure about what, but probably recipes, something to do with creating more quick, easy meals and snacks. Because I think that's what people really need. So they can see that this is what it takes to live a healthier life. It doesn't have to be more than that. It doesn't have to take more than 5 minutes to make something. And more digital recipe books and just running my online groups. I do like what I call a Sugar Busters week every month or two. And it's a week of just accountability. And a huge part of it is food, is showing people what I'm eating, how to make it, what things to stock in your house. And just, they come out of that week with a much better understanding of how simple it can be. And it's a process like anything. You don't stop and start your health. You are constantly working on it and evolving. And we evolve as writers and look back probably on things I've written a long time ago. And I'm like, oh my God, it's really like anything else. This writing is a learning process and you really get to understand what do the reporters want or what do the editors want. And then you're able to do things a little more efficiently.
Makes total sense. How can people find you now? And I'll put it in the show notes.
Sure. So I'm mostly on Instagram, on the stories a lot, because I think that's a fun place to be. And I'm at Get Naked Nutrition. And I'm also on Facebook. It's Laura Burak Nutrition. And my other Instagram account that's linked to my other one is Get Naked Snack Bar.
I love that.
Another thing I'd love to do in the future, because when I had my office, I used to have all my favorite snacks there. My clients would buy them. So they were all in one place. And if you go on Amazon, it's like you have to buy like 50 of something at once. So it was all there. They could try things. So that's something in my future that I'd really love to do, is open a little snack shop, whether it's online or in real life. And my website's lauraburaknutrition.com.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today.
Of course, anytime.
And I look forward to, and one day I'll be on one of the Sugar Buster weeks. I would love to do that.
Everyone needs it.
So thanks again, Laura.
You're welcome.
Hi, everybody. It's Estelle Erasmus, and I'm so thrilled to announce that my book, Writing That Gets Noticed, Find Your Voice, Become a Better Storyteller, Get Published, is out and available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, IndieBound, and wherever books are sold. So I would love it if you'd pick up a copy, and I think you'll learn a lot. Follow me at EstelleSErasmus.com on my website and on social media, which is Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Estelle S. Erasmus. And we're now on YouTube for Freelance Writing Direct. Follow along, and soon everyone will be reading what you're writing.